by now you've heard of Sea of Stars. There have probably been at least 3 videos besides this one that have told you how good it is, but there's no way for me to check exactly how many there are. Regardless, none of those videos invited me to talk about it, so I'm forced to put my amateur editing skills to the test. Sea of Stars is the latest release from Sabotage Studio, the makers of The Messenger. Rather than a side-scrolling action Metroidvania, Sea of Stars is an isometric turn-based RPG. You take on the roles of Valair and Zale, solstice warriors with the powers of the moon and sun respectively. They are soon joined by their best friend Garl, a warrior cook and contender for Bestest Boy 2023, as they set out to rid the world of the malevolent dwellers left behind by the Fleshmancer. These dwellers are immune to all but solstice magic, and are hunted down during total eclipses when a solstice warrior's magic is at its strongest. So just from the get-go, our heroes have a lot on their shoulders. And just like The Messenger, Sea of Stars isn't trying to hide its old-school influences. The visual style and soundtrack both reflect the SNES-era RPGs from the mid-90s, with Chrono Trigger coming up most often as a point of comparison. Thankfully, the end result is a far cry from a simple copy and paste, utilizing more modern traversal and timing-based combat maneuvers to keep things fresh and exciting. I've often heard Kinda Funny's Andy Cortez use the phrase, "every frame a painting," and Sea of Stars fits that description beautifully. The environments, the character designs, and the boss encounters are all a visual treat for the entirety of your journey. And it's hard to talk about this game for any length of time without saying how absolutely incredible the soundtrack is. There's one theme in particular that is used several times throughout the game that just hypes me up without fail every single time. What makes Sea of Stars stand out is not just the last paragraph I typed out and then read into a microphone, it's how evocative the story is. Sabotage Studio manages to take well-known genre tropes and use them in just the right ways to make them still stick the landing. Without going into spoilers, the game will literally tell the player, this thing is going to happen, and I still got emotional when it happened. The setup and the characters are so well done that it didn't matter how long ago it was telegraphed, it just worked. Probably the only critique I truly had when it came to this game was at the very end of the journey. I felt there were still a couple of loose ends I wish had been tied up, but again, without spoilers, there indeed was more that I could do if I went back into that same save file. Where the game took me after that made me emotional all over again, and gave me the closure I've been looking for. You could say the game gave me a total eclipse of the heart. Even without this extra series of events, the game was so close to perfect that I still would have been putting a script together so I could gush about this game to anyone who would listen. Look, we all know 2023 has been, and will continue to be, a frankly absurd year for gaming. Even so, this indie love letter to classic RPGs manages to stand out as one of the best this year has to offer. Personally, I don't think anything is ever going to knock Tears of the Kingdom out of this #1 spot, especially for this year, but as of now, Sea of Stars is going home with the silver medal.